marathon countdown here. Number 44 is Villainous. It is a thematic Disney game about where you get to play the Disney villains, and you're trying to complete your objective before all the other players. So it's a competitive game. Plays 2 to 6. We played it once with 6. I wouldn't do that again. It's probably best with 3, maybe 4, because even though there's quite a bit of interaction, the downtime between turns is a little much with that many players. Complexity, this is the first, I'd say out of 5, this is about a 3. It could be as low as a low 2, high 1, depending on some of the characters, because some are easier to run than others because they all have different powers. Like there's Prince John from Robin Hood. He's relatively easy to run, but then there's Ursula from Little Mermaid and the Queen of Hearts. They're a little more difficult to run. So I'd say this is a gamer's game. This is not light, but the kids will have fun with it. Say 10 and up, maybe 9. So the goal is different for each character. Like Maleficent, her goal is to start a turn with a curse at each location, and that leads into what I want to talk about for this game's mechanic or mechanism that's different. Each player has their own player board that has 4 different areas, and during your turn you will move your action token to the area, and you'll get to take the actions on that area. So it's a little bit different. It's a relatively new mechanic. It's a mechanic that's at least new to me. There may have been a game, but there's a game that came out a few years ago that's in my top 5 that uses this mechanic, and we'll get to that in the top 5. But when you go to the action, there's symbols on the board that denote what actions you can take, and each character has a handy dandy little action symbol cheat sheet that lets you know what they do. You may gain power, and the power are these little tokens. The game comes with a little plastic cauldron to hold them in. Excuse me. We upgraded it with some of my daughter's pottery. So you'll have a hand of cards, and in those cards will be either allies that you can play that cost money to put out, like a cackling goon for Maleficent, or there may be items or effects that you can use. There may be a condition that if happens, that's how you can interact with the other players, are these condition cards that you may have in your hand. If another player has a condition that is met on the card, then you get to play it and say this happens. So this, like Maleficent's Malice, says during their turn, if another player defeats a hero with a strength of 4 or more, you may play Malice. Defeat a hero with a strength of 4 or less. So that lets you get rid of some of your heroes that show up to slow you down. Well, how do heroes show up to slow you down? Well, during other people's turns, they may play the fate action. And when the fate action is played, each of the villains has their own fate deck, which are essentially the heroes or items from their movie. So like for Maleficent, one of the fate could be a guard, and when it is played, it's played on one of the locations, and it covers up half of the action, so you have to get rid of the heroes that are blocking you. But then it could be Prince Philip, which is a lot tougher than a guard. He's a 5 to defeat, where the guard is only a 3. So that's how you slow down other players. So let's get into the different villains' objectives and how they're different. Maleficent has to have a curse in each location. So in her deck, There are curse cards which she has to play, like Dreamless Sleep. Heroes at this location get -2 strength. Discard this curse when any ally is played to this location. So it's very thematic. You put the hero there to sleep, another hero shows up and wakes him up. Um, so if Maleficent ever has 4 out, then the other players are going to try to. They can read how to get rid of the curse, and they're going to try and do that during their turns, so you don't win. Queen of Hearts, I have her set out. She has to have a wicket at each location and successfully take a shot. So in her deck, there are the guard cards. So you have to play the guard cards down, and then you have to convert them to a wicket by taking an action. And then you have to have the take a shot card, which is somewhere in here. There may be 2. Take the shot. And if you manage to do that, you win. Prince John is the easiest. He only has to collect 20 power, I think. So he has a lot of cards that let him gain power during other people's turns. So that is Villainous. Says it takes about an hour. It probably takes an hour with 3 people. If you have 5 or 6, it's going to take a good 2 hours. All right, that was number 44, and stay tuned for number 43 for the kids.